The chains tightened. The skies burned red when the VYR call came. They didn't bother with negotiations, didn't issue ultimatums or demands. Their ships, hulking slabs of black metal that blotted out the sun, descended over the world's capitals and unleashed a storm of fire. Earth's defenses barely slowed them. Cities turned to rubble, nations collapsed, and within weeks, the survivors were rounded up like cattle. Mara Keen watched Chicago fall from the roof of the hospital where she had once saved lives. Sirens wailed below as alien dropships screamed overhead, disgorging towering figures in armor that shimmered like obsidian. The first time she saw one up close, she thought it looked almost regal, until it shot a fleeing child without hesitation. By the end of the month, Mara was in chains. The VYR coal herded thousands into massive freighters and launched them into the void. Mara, stripped of her belongings and shackled with glowing cuffs that seared if she resisted, found herself crammed into the belly of a slave transport. There was no day or night, just the endless hum of the engines and the stench of fear. When the ship landed, she was dragged out beneath a sickly yellow sky. The air smelled of sulfur and metal. A jagged horizon of mountains framed the mining colony called 07. Life there was not life, it was survival. Every morning, the humans were marched into tunnels to chip away at veins of ore for 12-hour shifts under the watchful eyes of VYR coal guards. The aliens barked commands in their guttural language, their shock staffs crackling as reminders of what disobedience meant. Meals were gray paste ladled into tin bowls, water rationed, sleep brief. But even in chains, Mara observed. She watched how the guards grew lazy during long shifts. How the overseers didn't bother to track every missing tool. How they underestimated humans, calling them soft and primitive. That arrogance planted a thought in her mind, a dangerous one. At night, she spoke softly to the others in the barracks. There was Ben, a former soldier who still carried himself like one. Leanne, an engineer who had sharp intelligence behind quiet eyes. And a boy named Thomas, barely 17, who was already skilled at bypassing alien locks. They whispered about escape, about fighting back, though each of them knew the price if they were caught. One evening, the price became real. A man named Gyro, just another exhausted worker, dropped his pickaxe. A VYR coal guard didn't shout, didn't warn. He just raised his rifle and fired. The shot cracked like thunder. Gyro's body fell to the dust, a thin curl of smoke rising from the hole in his chest. The humans froze in terror, staring. The guard moved on, indifferent. Mara knelt beside Gyro's body, her hands trembling, not from fear, but from the cold realization that something had snapped inside her. "They think we're broken," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Then she looked up, her eyes hard as stone. "They are wrong." Sparks in the dark. The VYR coal thought fear would keep the humans obedient. For a while, it worked. After Gyro's execution, no one dared speak above a whisper. The barracks was silent except for the coughs of miners choking on dust. But Mara wasn't silent. She patched wounds after shifts, cleaning cuts with stolen water and wrapping bruises with scraps of fabric. She listened to the workers' stories, the father who hadn't seen his daughter since Earth fell, the woman who still wore a locket from her dead husband, and every conversation fanned the coals of something the VY coal couldn't stamp out: resolve. Small acts of defiance began. A guard's shock staff went missing, found later at the bottom of a ventilation shaft. A mining drill malfunctioned, its cutting head jammed with smuggled rock fragments. All quotas dipped. The VY coal cursed their inept slaves, their arrogance blinding them to the fact that the accidents were no accidents at all. Mara's role grew quietly. She stitched the rebellion together with whispers. In the tunnels, she crouched beside Ben, the ex-soldier, and traced rough maps in the dust, escape routes, storage caches, patrol schedules. Leanne sketched crude blueprints of the guards' weapons from memory, figuring out how they might be disabled. Thomas, quick-fingered and reckless, practiced opening the electronic locks on tool crates. One night, while treating a miner's broken arm deep in a disused shaft, Mara spotted a faint green light winking in the rubble. She pried away stones and unearthed something unexpected: an abandoned VY coal comms array, half buried and coated with grime. It was old, maybe damaged, but not beyond repair. Her heart pounded. If it worked, they could send messages off-world, reach other slave camps, spread the word. She gathered her closest allies that night in the barracks, their faces half-lit by a flickering work lamp. "They think we're too afraid to move," Morris said, voice low but sharp. "But every lash, every bullet, it's teaching us. We know their routines, their weaknesses. It's time to make them bleed for every drop they've taken from us." Ben nodded, his jaw set. "We'll need weapons. Real ones." That meant the armory, a steel-plated room guarded night and day. To steal from it was suicide. They did it anyway. Under cover of darkness, Mara led them through the tunnels, Thomas bypassing locks with hands that barely shook. Leanne carried tools turned into makeshift weapons. Ben held a pickaxe like a soldier might grip a rifle. The first guard never saw them coming. It was brutal, quick, ugly work. By the end, blood stained the dust, and the armory door swung open. Inside, alien rifles lined the walls, their metal gleaming faintly in the dim light. Mara picked one up. It was heavy, wrong in her hands, but when she turned to her team, her voice was steady. "For the first time," she said, staring at the weapons, "we fight on their terms." The flame catches. The first shot fired by a human into a VYR cold guard didn't echo. It roared. Word spread through the tunnels faster than any alarm. The armory raid had armed a dozen rebels, and by the next sunrise, the guards were the ones afraid to patrol alone. Mara had expected retaliation. What she hadn't expected was how quickly their spark would ignite. The first full strike came 3 nights later. Mara, Ben's old unit instincts guiding her, led a coordinated ambush in the mess hall. 2 guards were dropped before they could shout. The rest bolted for reinforcements, only to find sabotage waiting. Locks had been jammed, corridors collapsed by well-placed charges. The humans had been underestimated for too long. By morning, 07 wasn't just a mining colony. It was a battlefield. Mara didn't stop there. Using the abandoned comms array Leanne had repaired, she sent a transmission off-world, her voice shaky but determined. "To every human beyond this rock, rise. You are not slaves. You are not broken. Fight, and we'll fight with you." The signal bounced across space, crude but clear. Responses trickled back. Whispers from distant colonies. Coordinated uprisings. Humans who had been beaten and starved for months suddenly saw hope. And hope was more dangerous than any weapon. The VYR Cole struggled to contain it. Their patrols doubled, then tripled, but their arrogance had built brittle control. Supply ships stopped coming. Guards deserted. Mara became a name the VYR Cole spat with fear, the ghost of Zeroth. But every victory carried its price. The biggest came when they decided to seize a landing pad. Without a ship, their rebellion would always be trapped in tunnels and mines. They struck at dawn, storming the outpost with stolen rifles and improvised explosives. The fight was savage. Plasma fire turned the air into a haze of smoke and heat. Mara saw Thomas, too young for this, but fearless, dart between crates, jamming alien rifles with scavenged wire. Leanne took a hit to the leg but kept firing. And then Ben fell. He had been the rock since the beginning, the soldier who taught them how to fight, how to move, how to survive. A VYR Cole rifle caught him in the chest as he held the line, buying them seconds they desperately needed. He died on his feet, firing until the weapon burned out. The humans took the pad. They took the ship. But when Mara stood on the ramp, staring at Ben's lifeless body, victory felt hollow for the first time. She stepped onto the captured transport's bridge, blood drying on her hands. Through the viewport, the yellow sky of 07 stretched wide, and for the first time, there was no cage above her head. She gripped the controls, jaw tight. "We're done hiding in the date," she said. "Now we take the skies." Revolution unleashed. The first stolen ship became 10, then 50, then a fleet. What started in the tunnels of 07 spread like wildfire. Human slaves on world after world rose up, killing their overseers, hijacking ships, and striking supply lines. The Vyakal Empire, once thought untouchable, was cracking under the weight of the very people they had chained. Mara stood on the bridge of the Vigilant, the first human-captured warship, staring at the holographic star map. Red dots marked VYR coal garrisons. Dozens were already crossed out. They are falling faster than they can regroup, Leanne said, leaning on a cane, his legs still stiff from the landing pad raid. Because they don't know how to fight like us, Mara replied. They've never had to. It wasn't just humans anymore. Her broadcast had reached farther than she'd hoped. Other species, enslaved for centuries, saw the humans fighting back and joined in. Ragged militias of insectoid miners and avian traders flocked to the cause. The rebellion had become a revolution. The VYR cult struck back. They sent fleets, burning colonies and bombing liberated worlds. But for every world they torched, two more slipped from their grip. Their military, built to intimidate and control, not endure, was stretched thin. Then came the moment Mara had been waiting for, the assault on the VYR cult homeworld. The plan was insane. Mara knew it, said it, but still ordered it. Dozens of stolen ships, crammed with rebels, dropped out of hyperspace above the capital planet. The VYR coal fleet scrambled to respond, but they weren't facing terrified slaves anymore. They were facing soldiers forged in the dirt and blood of 100 rebellions. The battle was chaos. Plasma fire streaked the skies. Ships collided, burning up in the atmosphere. Mara's voice cut through the comms, steady and fierce. No mercy for the ones who built our chains. Push forward. The Vigilant led the final charge straight into the planet's surface, disgorging fighters into the capital city itself. Streets burned. Statues toppled. Mara fought her way through the palace, alien rifle in hand, boots crunching on shattered marble. When she kicked open the doors to the ruling council chamber, the VYR cult leaders were huddled together, stripped of their arrogance for the first time. You came to Earth for slaves, Mara said, voice like steel. Instead, you taught us how to fight. They surrendered. They had no choice. Within days, the empire crumbled. Chains were broken on every world. Mara stood before a galactic broadcast, her face scarred, her voice unwavering. They wanted slaves. They forged revolutionaries instead. And now, we will never kneel again. The feed cut, and across 100 freed worlds, the cheers of the liberated rose into the stars.